Here's a look at Building Bridges Oresund with WTBN.
But people have had enough with the bureaucracy of third world bureaucracy of the Palestinian Authority versus the advanced democracy rule of Israel. People are now giving up on the concept of a Palestinian state, and I have been witnessing much less support for the proposed Palestinian state in the West Bank, or Judea and Samaria. This will lead us to a bigger reality, which is the Palestinians now seem to be accepting what was originally the agreement to establish peace. It's a long discussion, but it has to be mentioned that originally Palestinians, the Faisal-Weizmann agreement in 1919 between the leader of the Zionist organization, Chaim Weizmann, and Faisal, the representative of the Arabs, was that the Palestinians will get 78% of the land of Israel, according to the Balfour Declaration, which will leave them Jordan. Jordan was always supposed to be the Palestinian homeland. The Jews were going to settle for 22%, and that would have been the end of the story. What we have now is we are having people arguing about how we should be given some part back from what the Jews already have, or actually barely have, which is the 22% known as Palestine, more or less. The more people wake up to this fact, the more people are willing to understand that it's not going to work, this whole two-state solution is not going to work, the more we will eventually end up with reality. All of this is aided by one thing that's happening on Israel's borders. The king of Jordan is getting challenged for his rule. He might simply fall like all of the other Arab dictators who have fallen. And when that happens, we will end up with a Palestinian majority ruling Jordan. Then we will have a Palestinian state. Unfortunately, we would have loved to see other scenarios of peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, which would have given more understanding and more tolerance of one another as human beings, but we have not been. Israel has been trying to reach out to us, the Palestinians, for a very long time, and there has not been any successful change of attitude or change of the way they view Jews. So unfortunately, the solution or the progression might be when everyone gets his entitled right, and when that happens, people would possibly start to change in a couple of generations. So let's hope for the best.
I want to add a little bit to that and maybe ask another question there. I had a conversation with a spokesman from the Likud party on an interview a couple days ago. And I think the overall feeling there on their part was that the government should handle these issues. And I think where that conversation was going, because I sat quiet for about 10 minutes listening to it, and the consideration of the people having a voice in the government there in between the different states was very minimal. And I like the way you say the realistic view on it, because after sitting there for 10 minutes listening, they brought up the issue of, okay, so what if one side wants to build a dam and then those downstream don't get any water? And I said, well, that depends. If you have the government building the dam and the politicians behind it, then the politicians are going to be wanting controlling that. And what I asked was, what about the control going back to the people? You know, because the people are the ones that are where the peace is going to have to come from. And what they were talking about was top-down change. And I don't believe that's going to work because it never has worked in the past. And I want to get your view on this because it's interesting that you used that same term I did. That what would be the realistic look as far as the people of say, Jerusalem and Palestine and the different areas of those people having influence over how this goes by educating them in, as you say, the realistic view on these things?
Well, the main problem we've had is education. Now, because of the intense terrorism, acts of terrorism that Israel has been engulfed with since the day it's been established, Israel and even the West, like the United States, we're more concerned with who does the terrorism over who speaks about it. Mm-hmm. So as long as things don't blow up with guns and bombs, and it's okay, it doesn't matter what you say. And that's why they let go, or they left those hate preachers, hate theorizers, let them roam free as long as they didn't blow up stuff. In the case of the Palestinian Authority and Israel, Israel is a democracy. Mm-hmm. The Palestinian Authority is about the best of the worst on Arab democracy list. It was Reporters Without Frontiers issued that. I think they've got more freedom than most Arab countries. So, therefore, the Palestinian Authority left all those hate preachers and people who are theorizing and education. They've even used financial aid given by the United States and given by the European Union to print anti-Semitic hate-preaching books for the children at their schools. And while this keeps developing and going further and improving, we have more security, more police officers, more guns, more counterterrorism operations, and we have more hating generations growing up.
Yes,
we have to change the education. We have to change the views. We have to just get realistic on one point that people, for example, as we speak, the brother of Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, is receiving free medical treatment in an Israeli hospital. And they allowed him to access Israel from Gaza just for human causes. So we don't see this highlighted in the media. We don't see this highlighted. People who have been hoping for peace or allegedly or theoretically supporting peace and tolerance have done very little. For example, we have well-financed hate media channels in the Arab world, like possibly Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is not all bad. There's good and bad. Mm-hmm. But we have other channels. Iran has like a few channels, and Iran is pumping money into anyone who would open a satellite network that supports anti-Semitic views. On the other hand, the good guys who want to launch more knowledge and more acceptance and more realism into the way things are happening, they're being fed to the wolves.
Yeah, they don't want logic in there. They don't want logic.
But the thing is, people who care for logic, people who care for peace, they should get up and do something. Yes, and possibly invest a little.
That is exactly the cause of a lot of our shows.